Titanoboa, the ending we got wrong. Ground shouldn't tremble under a snake. Biology has limits, physics has rules. But in 2002, inside a Colombian coal mine, those rules were pulverized, nearly 50 feet long, over a metric ton of muscle, carving through black water. A predator built by heat, kept alive by it. And when the planet cooled, it didn't lose a battle, it lost the temperature. This is CreatureXX. In 2002, miners in northern Colombia split open rock that hadn't seen sunlight in 60 million years. What spilled out wasn't just fossil wood. It wasn't just turtle shells. It was something enormous. The sight felt impossible. Leaves preserved in surgical detail. Fish frozen mid-swim. Turtles captured in motion as if the swamp had paused. Then they found vertebrae, dozens of them, thick, dense, wider than a human wrist. At first, researchers assumed crocodile. That made sense. Paleocene swamps were ruled by crocodilians, and a reptile the size of a pickup truck already stretched credibility. But the bones didn't match. It wasn't a giant crocodile. It was too fluid, too cylindrical, too perfectly symmetrical. Researchers searched for limb sockets, for hip joints, for anything that suggested legs. They found none. Instead, they found infinite rings, vertebra after vertebra, repeating, endless. This wasn't a reptile missing limbs. It was a spine without an end. A biological glitch. As more fragments surfaced, the scale became undeniable. By the time they cataloged over 180 vertebrae, the crocodile theory collapsed completely. This was something longer, something singular. Years of measurement followed. Specimens were compared to every major constrictor alive today. Boa, python, anaconda. Scaling equations were applied, reapplied, debated. The verdict dropped. A snake, the largest serpent ever discovered. Conservative models placed it at 42 feet long. More aggressive projections pushed the upper range close to 50 feet. For comparison, the largest verified modern anaconda reaches roughly 28 feet, around 500 pounds. Titanoboa wasn't slightly larger. It was nearly twice as long, 4 to 5 times heavier, a metric ton of muscle, heavier than 3 large alligators combined, heavier than most compact cars, and that's where the real problem begins. Because size is expensive. To keep a 1-ton biological engine operating, you don't just need food, you need physics cooperating. Modern snakes follow strict scaling laws. Vertebra width correlates tightly with total body length. Measure the spine, extrapolate the body. The math is reliable. But when researchers ran Titanoboa through those equations, something else emerged. Snakes are ectotherms, cold-blooded. Their metabolism doesn't run on internal heat, it runs on environmental temperature. Warmth doesn't assist them, warmth defines them. The hotter the climate, the faster digestion operates, the quicker energy cycles. The larger the body can scale before physiological limits intervene. Researchers compared Titanoboa's projected mass to modern tropical constrictors, then reverse engineered the climate required to sustain it. The result was startling. To support a snake that massive, Paleocene equatorial temperatures had to average around 90 to 91 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, roughly 32 to 33 degrees Celsius. No winter, no seasonal cooling, no relief. And today, equatorial regions average closer to 77 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That difference sounds minor. It isn't. For an ectotherm, a few degrees determine whether muscles fire or stall, whether digestion completes in days or drags for weeks. Titanoboa wasn't merely an apex predator, it was a thermodynamic event. Imagine northern Colombia 58 million years ago. Dense swamp forest, slow rivers, humidity thick enough to distort distance. No polar ice caps anywhere on Earth, heat stretching from equator to pole. The Paleocene was a greenhouse world, and inside that furnace, size became viable. Water, mass is neutralized. Buoyancy offsets gravity. A 50-foot serpent on land would drag and strain. In water, it dominates. Titanoboa likely behaved less like a forest snake and more like a crocodile, half submerged, nearly invisible, eyes at the surface, waiting. Biomechanical modeling suggests it could exert constriction forces exceeding 400 pounds per square inch. That isn't a bite, that's structural failure. The sound wouldn't be a snap, it would be collapse. It didn't just kill prey, it deleted it. The fossil site supports the violence. giant turtles with shells approaching pool table dimensions, large fish, early crocodilians, everything oversized and everything accelerated by heat. But here's the fracture. Size was not Titanoboa's greatest weapon. It was its greatest liability, because the climate shifted, not overnight, gradually, then decisively. A few degrees dropped across millions of years. For mammals, that's manageable. For a reptile dependent on external heat, catastrophic. As temperatures declined, metabolism slowed, digestion extended, movement lagged, hunting windows narrowed. A Paleocene heavyweight cannot afford hesitation. Cooling triggers systemic drag. Energy balance collapses. Titanoboa didn't lose to a rival predator. It didn't face superior intelligence. It faced thermodynamics. Physics stopped cooperating. Swamps fragmented. Rainforests reorganized. Giant turtles declined. Crocodilian relatives adapted. Meanwhile, mammals diversified. Warm-blooded, temperature-independent. Active in cooler climates. They did not need constant external heat to function. Titanoboa did, and as global temperatures dropped, its size became mechanically unsustainable. You cannot efficiently circulate blood through 50 feet of muscle if your internal temperature declines. You cannot digest multi-hundred-pound prey quickly enough to maintain mass. You cannot recharge fast enough, because a metric ton of muscle isn't just an animal, it's a thermal battery. At 91 degrees Fahrenheit, it's fully charged, muscles primed, organs synchronized, predator operational. At 80 degrees, the battery begins to drain. At 75, systems stall. Digestion lags, movement slows. Titanoboa didn't starve to death, it suffered a global power failure. Surface area compounds the problem. A snake that large doesn't just gain mass, it gains thermal demand. Every square inch of skin exchanges heat with the environment. More surface means faster cooling between hunts. A small snake can reheat quickly. It requires less energy. It recovers rapidly. A 1-ton serpent cannot. Miss one feeding cycle, then another, and evolutionary time doesn't need drama. It only needs drift. So, Titanoboa faded. Not in a battle, not in spectacle, but in slow thermal decline. For decades, that was the conclusion. A closed chapter, the largest snake ever, a relic of extreme heat, extinct because the Earth cooled. Case closed. But here's where that ending fractures. We assumed Titanoboa was a one-time anomaly, a singular accident of extreme climate, until 2024. In India, paleontologists described Vasuki indicus, another colossal serpent from deep time, another heavyweight pushing dimensions beyond modern expectations. Suddenly, Titanoboa didn't look unique, it looked predictable. When Earth's thermostat rises, biological ceilings rise with it. Gigantism follows heat. We don't measure the maximum that ever lived. We measure what fossilized. If the largest individual died in the wrong sediment, we would never know. Just as with Tyrannosaurus, just as with any extinct predator, our ceilings are built from fragments. Titanoboa reset that ceiling once. Vasuki suggests it may have reset before, which means the boundary isn't fixed. It's conditional. Now, this is not a claim that 50-foot snakes are about to reappear. Modern ecosystems differ, prey bases differ, habitat structures differ, but the principle remains. Metabolism follows temperature, size follows metabolism, limits follow climate. The Paleocene proved that under the right thermal conditions, reptilian gigantism scales beyond what we consider stable. 40 feet of 47, perhaps more in unpreserved extremes. Titanoboa wasn't mythology. It was a calculation, a precise response to environmental variables, and those variables are not permanent. Earth has cycled repeatedly between icehouse and greenhouse states. The Paleocene was not the first warm interval, it will not be the last, which leads to an uncomfortable realization. Titanoboa wasn't a monster from a lost world. It was a mathematical outcome. The planet once supported the equation. It could again. So maybe the real question isn't, how big was Titanoboa? Maybe it's this. What does it take to build one? Titanoboa wasn't a creature of fantasy. It was a solution to heat. A metric ton of muscle assembled because the climate allowed it, and the math hasn't changed. Extinction didn't erase the blueprint. It only lowered the thermostat, and if the room warms again, the blueprint still works. This is CreatureXX, And sometimes extinction isn't the end of a species. It's just the end of the conditions that made it possible. If the thermostat climbs high enough, who breaks the ceiling next?